to another episode of the Poppet Pals Review, where two best friends who love horror movies decided to talk to you all about what they thought about random horror movies. So, my name is Katie.
And I'm Derek.
And we are those two best friends. And so this week is my pick. I chose this movie, and I think it's kind of an out in left field pick for me, just a little bit. But I wanted to get into the holiday spirit because this is coming out on Valentine's week. So
I thought we were doing Never Been Kissed. That's what I watched.
That is a horror movie. No. But yeah, so before we do that, though, we are going to talk about our horror happenings for the week, what we did in the horror genre, if anything. I know sometimes we have a busy week. So, Derek, would you like to share what you did this week?
Not to keep using that excuse, but yeah, it's busy times. But yeah. Okay, so I say adulthood is my horror happening every week, but this week is especially true because I did my taxes. Dun dun dun. Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, it was horrifying. But other than that, I'm just catching up on The Last of Us to say that every week. You need to quit using that every week and actually do something. And I play horror games sometimes. I'm about to start Dead Space. They remade that game. It's a good horror game. Let you guys know how that is if you care. That's about it for me. I'll leave the more intellectual stuff to you because you're reading all the books. I'm just doing nothing.
Well, it's funny you should say that.
Yeah.
Because this week I didn't really do a whole lot, actually. And it's funny because you forgot two things you did this week, which just so happens to be the only two things that I did this week. And that was watch Troll 2 with you.
Whoa, sorry, people. I forgot the best thing ever.
We had a watch party, and it happened, and yeah. And then the second one was we played some Dead by Daylight on the PlayStation, and that's pretty much all I did all week.
Well, thanks for filling in my broken memory.
Filling in the gaps for you.
Poppets, if you all are interested, please communicate. But we may actually, we play Dead by Daylight a lot. It's a fun horror game, and we goof off, do things. And if you want to watch us play it and be goofy, let us know. We'll stream it for you. You can.
Derek is much better at it than I am. I'm kind of just there getting hit and screaming and yelling at the killer.
Well, I do that too. I just click my flashlight a lot until stuff happens. But yeah, if you're interested, we'll do it for you.
But yeah, I guess that's all we did for our horror happenings this week. So we will go ahead and get into the movie that we're going to be discussing. Like I said, it's Valentine season, so I thought it was only appropriate that we talk about My Bloody Valentine. And first we'll do just our overall spoiler-free reaction to the movie. And then we'll get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, and we are specifically kind of talking about the 2009 version, but we'll probably touch on the 1980s as well. Yeah, in 3D. So, Derek, do you want to give your reaction first, or do you want me to give mine?
I'll let you go second because I think you'll be more overall. Like, I feel like you'll have a better overall impression because you watched the OG as well.
That's true. That's true, yeah. And this is the first episode, I will say, that I think this is the first time we haven't discussed already our opinions on it at length. So I don't fully know exactly what you're going to say tonight, honestly.
Yeah, wild card. I will say, first of all, this was very nostalgic for me because this took me back to a time when like you and I and our friend group in like high school and college would go watch these movies or just rent these movies randomly because it was in that time period. And I want to say we watched this at some point, but I'm not sure. I can't remember, but
I'm sure it happened at some point.
it had to have, especially with your crush on Jensen Ackles, because I know you had one.
I mean,
or have, whatever.
I was gonna say there's no past tense.
No past tense. There was that, and but I'll give you my thoughts like going into this later. But my overall impression after watching this is, if you are a fan of like Scream, or just like if you're a big fan of slasher movies, this is perfect because it's a very self-aware movie. Kind of like how Scream was self-aware of its own tropes. I think this movie like was kind of aware of those things because, I mean, we'll talk about it, but it wastes no time. There's no I mean, there's some breaks, but like you get right into it. Like the kills are hardcore. There's actually some good effects. And with the gore and in some parts. In some parts, it's just like 3D stuff flying at you, and it doesn't look good anymore. I,
Especially if you're not wearing 3D glasses.
Yeah, especially that. But I'd say the performances are good, especially for what this is, which is just like the bloodiest blood horror slasher movie. But yeah, I'd say if you like Scream, um, that sort of stuff, because the director of this collaborated with Wes Craven a lot. So if you like his movies, that sort of thing, I think you'll like this movie. And like I said, the performances are actually good for a plot line that is, pretty predictable and, straightforward. So it's kind of generic, but it has a personality, has a flavor, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So very self-aware.
Yeah, I actually definitely agree. I was going to compare it to Scream as well. I don't. I guess this movie is kind of middle of the road for me. There's stuff I really like about it, and stuff I'm like, it could have been better. I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's a good, entertaining movie.
Yes.
I don't. It's not like in my top. Like I love this movie kind of list,
No.
but I think if you do like Scream, if you are okay with a slasher movie that's not taking itself too seriously,
Yes.
I think that you would enjoy it. It's a good watch. Some of the early 2000s went through a 3D phase.
Yeah.
And so some of these scenes where it was originally 3D and now it just kind of looks like icky CGI or like, I hate this. But besides that, there are not too many parts like that. There's maybe just like one or two big ones I can think of, but I would suggest you give it a watch if you have not seen it. And I have also seen the original My Bloody Valentine, and I would encourage you to watch that as well. I mean, it's not, again, the best movie. There's no big name actors in it. But it is a little bit of a different story than the remake, actually, and we'll get into that here in a little bit later. But it almost doesn't seem totally like it was a movie from the 80s, but I would encourage you to watch that one as well because it is a little bit of a different story, so it's not going to be like you're sitting there watching the same movie over. But yeah, I would encourage you to watch it if you are just wanting to watch a laid back, easy slasher film.
Yeah, that's it. That's for took the words out of my mouth because I'd say it's a fun movie. It's not too serious. Like it's a good like, I don't know, like you want just a Saturday night B-movie horror film, on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, if you want to be like, I want to look at some early 2000s nostalgia.
Yeah, for us.
And be entertained a little bit.
Yeah, for us that is nostalgic because that's been like, how many years now since that was made?
Okay,
like
don't make us sound that old. We're not old.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Youth. It was like a roller coaster ride, which I think was the idea.
For sure.
So.
And it's funny you should say that. Remember that, and I'll let you know later.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, if you haven't seen it, just pause us, go watch it, and then come back and listen to the spoiler portion of our discussion that we are just about to get into right now.
Spoiler.
So if you haven't seen it, go look. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. This is your last chance, but don't turn us off. Just pause us and come back and listen to the rest later.
Yes.
So just to let everybody else know, I did go ahead. I had actually never seen the original. I think it was 1981, My Bloody Valentine.
I think you're right.
But it is available right now on HBO Max if you guys do want to go watch it. But
yeah.
I have obviously seen the remake first, and I know what happens in the remake. I know that 10 years has passed since the incident, and Sarah and Axel are married with a kid, and Tom is back after like this 8 or 10 year disappearance or whatever. And of course, Tom ends up being Harry the killer. I'm just gonna refer to the mine outfit killer part as Harry, just so we know who we're talking about.
Because it's Harry.
Because I don't want to be like the bad guy. But
it is Harry in both. Like the guy's name is Harry in the original.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's where I was going with it. So all the characters in the original are the same, except for Tom goes by TJ. He has the same last name, Hanniger.
Okay.
But his name's not Tom, it's TJ for whatever reason. And they never really state in the original if he is the son of the mine owner or how he is related to the mine. But so basically, like, I'll just do a really quick rundown of the old one so you know what's going on, because like I said, it is different. Whereas this one, the remake kind of takes place over, I mean, if you consider like the first killing spree with Harry all the way up until where Tom comes back as Harry, I think it's like how many years, like a lot of years, because he was in a coma for how many years? The actual Harry. In
the remake, it was like 1 year.
Okay,
right.
So altogether, it's been about like 11 years, something like that, right?
Yeah, when we flash forward, it's 10 years, so yeah, 11.
Yeah, okay. So basically, in the original, Harry's never in a coma. He gets placed in a mental ward.
Yes.
And so he was never in a coma, which is something you had brought up to me in the remake. It's kind of weird that he would wake up from a coma from that long ago and just immediately be able to stand up and start murdering people.
Well, for people like me who watch Kill Bill, and the bride wakes up from her coma and she falls down, she can't walk, and she spends an hour trying to get her big toe to wiggle because she's been in a coma. That's when I was like, okay, but
wait a minute.
I was gonna call it out, but then Harry just went on a freaking massacre spree, and I forgave it instantly because I changed my
perspective. He not only massacred in the hospital, he like went down to the mine and massacred their whole party.
Yeah. So I kind of forgive it because I was like, oh, it's that kind of movie. We're gonna let that slide. So we're
gonna pretend reality is not real.
Because when you're driving a like pickaxe through someone's jaw and and doing all this crazy stuff, like I don't think it matters.
No. So basically, where the story is in the remake, like them as, I'm assuming, like teenagers, early 20s, are having the party, and he shows up and murders everybody basically except the main characters. And but that doesn't actually happen in the
remake
original one the same way. Yeah. Oh. So what happens is after they find the original Harry in the mine, he gets convicted because it is the same backstory. Like, he gets found having eaten his fellow mine workers.
Yeah.
And he basically breaks out, kills the mine supervisors that were in charge of making them like miss the dance. Everybody else rushed off to the dance, and that's why no one found them for an extended period of time, because there wasn't those people there checking to make sure they got out of the mine okay. And so every year this town has a Valentine's Day dance, and he's basically like, if you have the dance again, I'm gonna come and kill you all.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Whatever. Which
I
at first
remember
I was
that
like,
being
this
a
is
thing.
weird. Yeah. So the whole backstory is kind of totally different. This whole story takes place in basically like one weekend. Like it'll pop up and say, I think it started like Thursday the 12th, and then Friday the 13th, of course, and then Saturday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. And so the town ends up canceling the Valentine's Day dance because they think Harry has broken out of the mental institution. And the not kids, but I guess early 20s, all the mine workers, the young mine workers, decide to throw a secret party at the mine, kind of like from the remake, a nod to them doing that in the beginning. And then of course, while they're at the party, one by one they all start like disappearing or turning up mutilated in some weird way.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In the original, was Harry's psychiatrist there, and did he say Harry's been there, he's been looking at that wall, seeing past the wall, waiting for this Valentine's Day night so he could get his revenge? Because
no, it's a lot
sounds
less
familiar.
Michael Myers to me.
Sounds familiar.
It's more to me Friday the 13th, Jason kind of a feel. There's a lot of scenes where you're the POV of the person in the mask, and all you hear is like heavy breathing. But like the way they do it with Jason, not so much Michael Myers. Like it feels
Michael does
a lot
the breathing.
Like more like Friday the 13th.
He does the breathing.
I know, but it felt more like Jason. It did.
Like buff and like indestructible.
Yeah. It didn't feel like Michael's
stalkery.
like stalker.
Mm.
This was like, I'm gonna sprint at your face with a pickaxe and murder you.
Oh, I gotcha. Less subtle is what you're saying. Less subtlety.
So long story short, basically everybody's like, oh, the killer's back once they start finding bodies, and but right before that, the main cast of people, Sarah, not Axel, and TJ in this movie / Tom, those two stay up on land. Sarah and Axel are of course not married in the remake because they are younger, and they have just started dating after Sarah and TJ broke up for whatever reason. He had to go away somewhere for a year, but they never actually say why he had to go away for a year.
Sus.
But anyways, so Sarah and like 3 or 6 other people, I don't know, some other people decide they want to go down and see what the mine looks like underground. And so the guys are drunk and they're like, yeah, we'll take you down there. And the reason why I said this is because the girls are like, isn't it like a roller coaster ride?
Yes.
So they all go down in the mine. They're running around with the lights and everything. And then when they start finding bodies, TJ / Tom and Axel are like, oh my gosh, Sarah and her friends are down in the mine. Harry's back. We have to go get them out so that he doesn't get to them. So it comes to the point where basically Sarah and her friends, they all went down there, and then Axel and TJ are all just running around in the mine looking for each other, of course getting killed one at a time. And it comes down to Sarah, Axel, and TJ / Tom, just like in the remake. But the twist I was not expecting, because I was like, assuming that the killer was going to be TJ / Tom, but in the original, it actually is Axel that is the killer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which I wasn't expecting, because, and I imagine if you had seen the original and you knew it was Axel was the original killer, then if you saw the remake later, you were probably like, oh, well, it's Axel. And then seeing that it was actually Tom, you were like, what? But I was surprised that it was Axel, because I didn't read anything about this movie before I watched it. I just wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's going to be Tom, right? Because it's the same story, basically. Not really, but basically.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so when it actually was Axel, I was confused. And the reason he was doing it was because his dad was one of the supervisors that got killed by Harry in the first massacre, and he had witnessed the murder, and it kind of just made him snap. And the
Mhm.
end of the
Mhm.
movie, like literally, you need to go watch the end. The very last like 30 seconds when they see that Harry, good lord,
Axel.
Axel
Yeah.
was not killed by like the last fight scene or whatever.
Yeah.
He runs off into the mine going, Sarah, you're my bloody Valentine, and then does like a Wicked Witch laugh, and it's so funny.
I'm going to Google that scene when we're done.
I was like, what is happening?
That's way better than the ending to the remake. I'm already saying.
It is. It was just so funny because it was such a serious movie up until that point, and then he just like laughs and dances like back into the mine and disappears. Um, so I mean, it is pretty different than the remake, but the remake does have some little Easter eggs and nods towards the original,
Mhm.
which if we talk, we'll start talking about the actual remake now, since that's the one we were wanting to talk about and the one that you've seen. But
Yeah, yeah.
that just gives you an idea of the old one and how it differs and how it's the same. And if we come across one of the little nods, I'll tell you. I'll be like, oh, that was actually in the original as well.
Oh,
So
yeah, please do. I'm actually curious like what they kept.
yeah, there was a few things. It was just like a few little Easter eggs here and
Well,
there, but
uh is it time you want me to do my thing?
yeah, your thing, because you know I did not do that. So go
I
for
mean,
it.
I do the lab work here. I go into the library, or I go to Wikipedia basically and go look things up about these movies just because I'm curious. I always like doing that. Um, but basically, going into this, I had a negative view already, like from the get go, because I was like, okay, it's a slasher movie based off, or related to a holiday. I was like, this is going to be a Halloween ripoff. Like 100%. Just like in the 80s, like that was one of the main criticisms of the original, like Ebert and Roper or whatever. They said, like, oh, it's a Halloween ripoff, like whatever. But, they don't understand us horror people. They don't know.
That's
So
crazy. It really felt way more like Friday the 13th to me, because
exactly.
you're in
Yeah.
the whole movie really kind of takes place at the mine, besides maybe like 10% of like outside storyline. And it's a group of younger people just like at Camp Crystal Lake with the counselors. Like it's that same kind of setup of them being in this one enclosed area and the killer just kind of chasing them around that area. It wasn't like
Yeah.
Haddonfield where he's like, all over the place.
Yeah, and you said it was less stalkery. It was more just straight up. I'm gonna kill you, like and
Yeah,
bust down this wall.
absolutely.
Um, so yeah, yeah. So they're wrong. Those critics were wrong. It's more Friday the 13th. But I do find it funny that this came out like because Halloween came out what 79? Is it 79? I don't know. So this came out like a couple years after the OG I'm talking about, and then
Mm-hmm.
flash forward, 2006, I believe, Rob Zombie had his Halloween, and then 3 years later, we get another My Bloody Valentine. I mean, the timing's pretty funny.
That is funny.
Consistent. And then Halloween 2 came out the same year this did. So that's interesting too. But like I said, I kind of like had my expectations low because I looked up the production crew, and the director is Patrick Lussier. If you don't know who he is, or if I'm saying his name right, don't worry about it. Um, but he did work a lot with Wes Craven, so you gotta give him props. He's done a lot of work. He worked as like an editor, I think, on some of the Scream movies. He worked on New Nightmare. He worked with Wes Craven on that, and but as a director, he worked on um, the. I saw Dracula, and I was like, oh. But then I saw it was Dracula 2000. It was like those movies.
Oh.
Like those movies like
Oh.
Dracula, Dracula 2, like those early 2000 Draculas, and I was like, "Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad." And I was like, "Well, let's move on." I was like, "Well, let's look at the screenplay." Todd Farmer, that name sounds familiar. What did he do? Jason X. Yeah, Jason X and the Messengers.
Well.
I was like, okay, well,
I didn't hate the Messengers.
I don't really remember the Messengers that well, so you may be right, but I remember Jason X. I'll never forget Jason X.
I mean, I remember when it first came out, I liked the Messengers. Now, I haven't watched it in a really long time, so I might watch it back and be like, why did I like this? But
yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
maybe
yeah.
that should be a future episode.
It could be. Yeah, we got countless to do, so yeah, maybe. But then I was like, maybe the music's good. So I looked up the guy behind the soundtrack, and the first thing he's done was Piranha 3D, and I was like, okay, so
This is almost making me like it more, though. You know, like those movies that are so bad that you just can't help but like it.
yeah. I just started laughing. I was like, this movie's set up for some crazy goofiness. But then I looked at the important stuff. I was like, for the effects, so I was like, there's gonna be a lot of gore, like that sort of thing. And let me find his name, Gary J. Tunnicliffe, which is it's a great last name. He did. I saw his name and I was like, that sounds familiar. And it's gonna tie in because I like tying in all of our episodes in one package. He did the effects on Hellraiser. And then I was like,
Okay.
oh. And then I saw Hellraiser 3 onward, and I was like, oh. Like disappointment. But,
No.
oh, and it gets worse because remember the bad Hellraiser last week that, Clive Barker said was written from his butthole, if anything? That quote. This guy that did the effects wrote that movie. He wrote it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I didn't think the effects were really that bad in this remake.
They aren't. They aren't.
For the early 2000s, I thought it was pretty good. Like the few scenes that they had originally made 3D, like where at the very end the rescue miner comes and Jensen like puts the pickaxe through his eye, and you're the POV of the rescue worker, and this axe just comes through this like obvious looking like animated mask and axe, and you see Jensen in like the one eye. It's so cringy now, but like I guess it probably looked really cool 3D, but now, since obviously no one's watching this movie in 3D, it just looks like really bad CGI.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna have to pass over the 3D stuff, like, because we're gonna have to forgive it because like, we can't criticize it now.
But speaking of the blood and the gore and everything, and the remake I thought did have some really good kills, even though some of them were a little cheesy, but they were like an acceptable cheesy, like the kind of cheesy you like to see in a horror movie. The original, actually, you hardly saw any of the actual kills on screen. Like a lot of them you would not see. You would see like that final moment when they were about to like happen, or you would see them from like the side where you could barely, like there's this one scene where he obviously like has taken out one of the random girls, and they come looking for her, and you don't see her dead body, but you kind of just see like the side of her face that he is like put on this they're in the locker room at the mine, and he's like put her face on one of the showers, and the water's like coming through her mouth, but you can't see it. All you can see is just like her cheek and the water coming out.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So the original is actually really not very bloody, like at all. And you don't see many of the kills on screen. You just see the after effects of them.
And I appreciate
which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I thought it was weird for an 80s movie, because most of them
are hardcore.
Like, slasher movies from the 80s are pretty gory. So
yeah,
that's why I said earlier, it's kind of weird. It doesn't follow the normal like 1980s slasher film vibe.
No, maybe they took some subtlety from Halloween and stuff. Because even like Michael Myers got 80s-ified
No,
in
I would
this
say
with the gore.
Halloween is bloodier than My Bloody Valentine. I would say
Really? It's in the
for sure.
name.
Yeah,
It's in the
I
name.
know,
It should have blood.
but the remake makes up for it. So
Oh, and how? And how? Um, I guess. I guess we'll start. Well, we've already kind of talked about the beginning and stuff. Uh,
yeah,
I want to talk about the cast for a second because when I saw who was
yeah,
in this, I just looked at
absolutely.
them.
Let's talk about the
I
cast.
was like, this. I could see the poster of this now to be a WB or a CW show. Like all these
Yeah, or
people
like I think all of these people have been on.
or some show. They've been
Like,
on some show
let's
back
see,
then.
Jensen Ackles was on Supernatural,
Of course. Yeah.
obviously, and
Yeah.
then Days of Our Lives.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Jaimie King's on Heart of Dixie. Kerr Smith was on Dawson's Creek, right? He was on Dawson's Creek, right?
Yeah, I knew you looked familiar. I couldn't remember. Thank
Um,
you for that. I couldn't remember.
yeah.
Megan Boone, who plays Megan. The Blacklist. She is Elizabeth Keene. I recognize her anywhere.
I did not even recognize her when you were like, you sent the picture of her, and I was like, she's not in this movie. Are you watching the right movie?
Yeah, she looks like a baby.
She
in
looks
this.
so different. She looks so different. Yeah.
She's so
But
so young.
the point of it, I think what you're saying is, I think that's one thing that this movie had going for it, is it was all these actors that they're not A-list actors now, but they're definitely people that you've recognized and you've heard of and you've seen in at least one other thing.
And they can
and
act.
This was kind of like, yeah, exactly. That's where I was going. That's what makes this a good movie, is that they're actual actors. Like, they're not just random people that are just getting started in the business. Like, they've already done some like fairly popular things, whether it's shows or movies at this point.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made this movie a step up, like out of like a B horror movie.
I do too. Like, I'm sure they all read the script and were like, "Oh, we're making this, okay."
Mm-hmm.
But they were all game. They were all game for it.
I will say they weren't like at the top of where they're at now yet.
No.
Like, you could tell some of the lines were delivered very like soap opera-y. Like, they were still finding their acting ability, but they were better than just like a newcomer to the industry.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of horror movies from that time period, and I don't know, like what, like House of Wax, the newer Black Christmas that came out, like
the Friday the 13th remake.
I enjoyed, which also had a supernatural brother.
Yeah.
But
Sam Winchester.
I would say this, as weird as it sounds, this is like one of my favorite casts of any of that time period. Like,
that time period, yeah, I would say so too, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a positive.
I mean, I'm gonna give anything with Jensen Ackles 2 thumbs up. So
yeah, he's Batman and a Winchester and on The Boys, so he can do whatever he wants, and it's fine.
Even though he wasn't the best character on The Boys, but we're just gonna pretend that that's not right. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it.
It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it.
But I was kind of expecting, to be led on a leash, like here, walk through these horror, beat by beat, these tropes of like Halloween, like, the same old. And this movie, like, I'm just going into the movie now, but like it didn't do it. It didn't do it. It was like, it wasted no time. It was like somebody was getting a pickaxe through their face in like the first 5 minutes.
Within like,
or like
for
couple
sure,
minutes.
yeah, as soon as the movie opens.
Yeah, which I think Scream opened up pretty strong too, but not like this. Like that kind of caught me off guard, and then the whole the like. Like, it was an interesting setup with the flashback with Jensen Ackles, like mining disaster, all that. Like they set that up well, and then in
Mm-hmm.
that flash forward with Harry in the coma, he massacres just like the
Just
bloodbath.
everybody, yeah.
When I saw that scene and like all the bodies and pieces everywhere, I was like, now I see where the Hellraiser guy got his work. Like all the gore just splattered everywhere. I knew then that we weren't like going to have a typical movie. I was just like, this movie's just going to go for it, and I
Oh yeah.
applaud it. I applaud it for not being boring. It you know it it just it knew what it was. It knew what it was and just went for it, and it was
There's
fun.
no like slow points. Like
No,
it carries itself at a pretty good pace.
yeah, like that's what I was saying. Like kick
And
back.
still is able to like form a full story.
Yeah, it told a story. I thought they were gonna like build up more with Jensen Ackles' character, but they left enough to mystery to set up the ending with him because they
Yeah.
couldn't go too in depth with him. Because
No, and I like the whole for seeing the remake, I think without having seen the original, they throw Tom in your face. Like
they do,
Jensen Ackles' character, like they make it so obvious that he's the killer.
he's
To
popping
me
pills.
anyways.
He started popping pills
Like,
in the hotel room, so he knew
and
something was
everybody's
wrong.
accusing him, even like all of the town elders, I guess we'll call them, and the not just Axel as the sheriff, but also his deputy. I forget his name, but
Oh, doesn't
they
matter.
both like are for sure that it's Tom that's committing all these crimes as well. Like everybody's sure it's Tom, except for Sarah, pretty much, and Ben. Ben doesn't think it's Sarah, which I will say there's not really like a Ben character in the original. However, that is one of the Easter eggs. The deputy in the original, his name is Ben, but they changed that
Oh,
character for whatever reason in the remake. So there's not
interesting.
like this older guy that works at the mine that's like his, you know, role model or whatever. But they do reuse the name Ben. Uh, but anyways, yeah, with Jensen Ackles, like I think my favorite scene is when he goes down in the mine for the first time in present day. And I will say I love Jensen Ackles. Like I think he plays such a dramatic like bad guy role really well. You see it in the boys. Like he's only even he has aged like a fine wine, I'll say.
Yeah, he looks the same.
But
Yeah.
he looks the same, but his acting, like he turns on like villain role really well, I think. However, and you see this in Supernatural as well, he also really knows how to deliver like a funny little one liner as well, I
Oh,
think.
did he
And
have
when
one?
they're yeah, when he's riding down into the mine with that guy that's like doesn't like him or whatever, and he's like, "How's the head?" or something like that, and it was like just this funny little quip in the moment, and I was like, just the way he delivered it though, it was so Jensen Ackles, and it reminded me of his character on Supernatural, and like it's just he's got this delivery where it makes it kind of funny in the moment, and just like these little quips, but my favorite scene is when the two of them go down there, and of course Tom,
Tom.
he gets locked in that cage closet thing, and then of course witnesses Harry murdering the mine worker, and the Harry walks over to Jensen, and they show them face to face, like it's a close up of their faces looking right at each other, and they like slowly stand up together. Do you know which? You remember what scene I'm talking about?
Oh, when he's in the cage? Is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like this. You can see the possession kind of happening, which is not like a possession where the real ghost, of course, like goes into him. He's hallucinating all this, but you can kind of see that switch flipping there. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of when it starts. Like, I think when he gets down in the mine, the PTSD kind of flips over, and that's when he becomes like the new Harry, sort of. It's just this cool scene, I think, of this close up of them right face to face, and they're just standing up together. And I thought that was a really cool scene.
That was cool. That's like an underappreciated moment of acting right there
Mm-hmm.
too. What'd you think of his because I mean we the whole movie we build up to it, but he finally reveals himself as Harry. That I guess they call his other personality Harry, but because
I'm just calling it that for the sake of, like, so we all know who we're talking about.
well, Axel says Harry, and then Jensen Ackles or Tom, whoever, he goes, "I'm right here." So I guess his other
Right, because I think
personality
he
is
just
Harry.
doesn't. Right, I don't think Tom knows he's the one committing these acts. Like, I think
Right.
it's
Yeah.
truly a split personality sort of thing.
Because
Yeah.
you saw him go back, because Sarah, our female lead, was like Tom, and he snaps out of it for a second, but then he goes back
Right,
in, and it's kind of like Harry just
because
takes
Sarah
over.
is like his long lost love. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, that's what I got out of it, is that they he had probably been in, you find out he's been in a mental institution for the 8 years that he was missing.
Yeah.
And I think he probably, like, was so shaken up by the original massacre the night
And
of the party on Valentine's Day that
and
he was in this place.
and being blamed
Yeah.
because it was his fault because he didn't bleed the
Right,
methane, right?
exactly.
So he had that
So,
guilt
yeah.
too.
Well,
So,
no, I'm talking
right?
about, like, the party,
Oh yeah.
like the second massacre, I guess.
But I'm just saying,
Um
like, he had that guilt too.
Yeah.
So it was
Well,
like
I
a
think it
lot.
just all built up. He probably had really terrible PTSD, and
Yeah.
they let him out. I don't know if they let him out because he thought he was better, or if it was because his dad um, passed away and he had to go take care of if he was going to sell the mine or whatever he was going to do with it. But I think then being in the mine, it like snapped the PTSD back on and just kind of made him snap again.
That makes you wonder.
And
It makes you wonder, like,
mhm.
was he better? Did they let him out because he was better? Because if you had this much psychosis, how are you like, well, uh, my dad's passed. I got to go manage this company and deal with its employees. Is that cool? Is that cool if I check myself out? And they're like, sure, go handle your business. Like, split personality, man. You're fine. Like, is that cool? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he was better.
Well,
Maybe
that's
they
why I
thought
was
he was
thinking
better.
maybe he was better. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because that's a
Um,
big responsibility.
mhm. And then of course the other star male lead, Axel, they make you just dislike him so much.
Yeah,
He's such a
yeah.
dislikable character,
Even at
and
the
it
end.
didn't make
Mm-hmm.
sense to me until I saw the original. Because I was like, oh, this is they're probably making you hate him because it's a mislead, since in the original, like, he is supposed to be the killer, like it's supposed to be Axel. So this
Yeah.
is probably a mislead, so you're probably like, oh, I hate him, like he's the killer, like obviously I've seen the original, and then it ends up being Tom. So I'm thinking maybe that was the reasoning behind making him so unlikable. But
Probably.
he is just so unlikable.
And
Because
they.
you don't want the girl to end up with the guy that's cheating on her, like, ever, and treating her like crap.
Oh yeah, I'll come back to that. I have my own feelings about that. Hate that guy. uh, but yeah, they go out of their way every chance. It's like Harry. I'll just call it Harry. Killing someone. Cut back to clean Jensen Ackles doing something. Like
Right.
they're not related. Like they go out of their way to like make you like not. I mean, you and I kind of. I'm probably a lot of people saw through it that it was going to be some kind of twist because we've seen it before. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they really tried to like oh, it can't be him. He's over here. He's brushing his teeth. He couldn't have killed that
Right.
naked lady in the parking lot.
Oh,
That
can
was
we
the
just
thing.
talk about that for 5
I
seconds?
guess we have to.
Because
Don't
that
watch
is
this with your
my.
kids. Don't watch this with
After
your kids.
I have stated what my favorite scene was, that was absolutely my least favorite scene.
Oh, so
Look, like
stupid.
I know it's a horror movie. If you want to put nudity in it, fine, whatever. Have like whatever little like 2 second scene, but I didn't need 10 straight freaking minutes of a hoo ha flopping around in my face, okay? Like, nobody wants to see that. I'm obviously not interested in that, and I don't think guys or females who would be interested in that would even want to see it for that long of a period. Like, it's just, it's there, and you can't, like, even concentrate on what's going on because this crazy woman is just running around in a parking lot butt naked, everything flopping around,
Yeah.
and it's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
I was like, why? This that was the one scene that I was like, this was so unnecessary. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think they were like, how can we make this stand out? Take off your shirt. I like what?
I don't know.
Like I
Like
don't know.
even, but
And your
that's what I'm
pants.
saying. Like if you want nudity in it, fine. Like do the love making scene if that's what you even want to call it.
Yeah.
And then when the trucker guy's like leaving, she could have like very easily pulled on a t-shirt to go confront him in the parking lot. Like I mean, I'm sure there are crazy people that would go out there and confront a significant other they were pissed at nude, but I don't know anybody that would do that. Like I don't see why they couldn't have just had her pull a t-shirt on. It would have been the same effect. You probably could have taken it more seriously because even when Harry is chasing her, like kills the trucker, chasing her. Does he kill the trucker or does the trucker leave? I can't remember.
I thought he
But
killed the
anyways,
trucker.
he's
Maybe.
yeah, I'm sure he did. But he chases her into the hotel room and she's hiding under the bed. Like you can't take the entire thing seriously because of the nudity. I feel like it just makes it ridiculous and stupid looking.
It takes all the tension out because you're
takes you
just
out.
laughing at
It
how
takes you out of the
ridiculous it
movie.
is.
Yeah, it takes you out of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that did. I was like, oh my gosh, why? That was ridiculous.
But sorry, I just went off on a tangent of that because I hated it so much. But back to what you were saying about hating Axel.
Oh, my quick thing is that he freaking cheated on his wife with Megan, which, you know, I love Megan Boone. I understand wanting to date Megan Boone, but don't cheat on your wife. And then that part at the end where he was like, you know, he's found out because she found all of his little boxes, little heart boxes,
Mhm.
and like he was like, shoot me or shoot us both, like because Tom was there.
But then
He's
at
like,
that point, she was thinking it was Axel, then, right?
she thought it was Axel, but I guess he knew it was Tom, so he's trying to keep her safe. So he's saying shoot us both, so he'll be down, I guess.
Right.
So, but good for him. But you know, just at the end where like she's like, I love you, and like you're, I don't know, he's get. I mean, I know Megan died. Everyone, Megan died, and Tom tried to kill everyone, but you you still got to go to counseling after this. Like you're not.
You still need help.
Like her answer should have been, he should have been, I love you, and she'd be like, we need to talk.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They made him so unlikable. Like, to the point of you're like, oh man, like, is he the
Yeah.
better option over the serial killer? Like, is he?
Yeah. And
like, she had some real bad options, the cheater or the killer.
yeah, there wasn't much there. It just makes me think like this is different from Scream a lot because like Scream was like a whodunit where it was like you have this huge cast, or you're introduced to like 8 to 10 characters sometimes, and it's like the killer can be any of those characters. It's whodunit. But in this one, you know, you only have a couple of options of who could be the Harry. It's either Harry, like still alive, which you find out he's dead at near the end. So it's not him. Or your other suspicions are Tom and Axel. Like, you got two options.
Right.
Like, really, because it's not the other. There's a couple old dudes like the sheriff and like the old sheriff
Mm-hmm.
and all that. I mean, I guess you could be the deputy, but that wouldn't make sense. like, like it could only be them. So, like that's different. But maybe that makes a little bit more tension because, like, for Sarah, if Sarah is like our protagonist at the end, I guess that creates a lot of tension. Like, one of those guys. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a positive for this. I don't know. But it definitely differs it from Scream a little bit.
Yeah,
But
and I mean, I think that what elevates Scream up a little more is that you, instead of it being like it was him, no, it was him, it's literally both of them. Like there's two killers,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think that's what makes Scream better. But I know upon like first watching this movie, I was back and forth about it because I was like, well, they're making it so obvious that it's Tom, like
Yeah.
it maybe it is Axel, and then I think that like they kind of meant for you to the audience to almost be in Sarah's point of view, where this whole time you're unsure of Tom, like he's all the evidence against him is really credible, but then he gets it in your head like, well, why is Axel doing all this stuff? We know Axel is cheating. We have found the evidence of the cheating at his cabin. We found all the Valentine boxes
Mm-hmm.
at his cabin.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they like literally were like, we're gonna put the audience in Sarah's shoes, and so then at the end, even when she's pointing the gun at both of them, I was still like, I think on the very first watch of this movie, questioning it a little bit, like, we know it's one of them, but which one? But now knowing it's obviously Tom, like, it makes so much sense. Like, if you look back at all the little things, like, they're throwing the big things in your face, but that's kind of almost a misdirect because usually in a scary movie, if they're making it too obvious that it's someone, it's not them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But if you look at all the little details that you might not notice the first time around, you're like, oh, like popping the pills and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw the pill popping, I was like, oh, it's got some psychosis. It's gonna be the killer. Oh, bother. But I don't know. Like, I do have to ask, what was your favorite kill in this movie? Since there were so many, and if you're gonna watch this, you're gonna be a gore hound or enjoy some bloody murder. We have to talk about the best kill. What was your favorite?
Well, I mean, Ben's is pretty like gnarly.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I think. Okay, I have several answers to this.
Oh yeah.
So Ben's is pretty gnarly, and you kind of hate to see it happen because he's like kind of the good guy, that's still friendly to Tom and everything. I was glad to see Megan get it because I disliked her because I'm just not cool with cheating. So I was like, yeah, kill the.
Oh, Megan Boone.
Kill the homewrecker. But
yeah, well, fair. That's fair.
And I liked that when they found her, like it said, like, be my Valentine forever or whatever it said.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then, which of course was eventually Tom's downfall, that he knew what the wall said without should have been there anyways. He shouldn't have known what it said is what I was trying to say there. I got tongue tied, but
oh yeah.
But I think just like overall, like the coolest looking just kills in general were like the random ones at the beginning. I guess technically it's the second massacre when Harry wakes up from the coma and he's in the mine just killing all the random party goers. That was probably some of the most epic kills, I think.
Was that the part where he threw the pickaxe? Did he throw it at that point?
I think so. I think so.
I knew that was coming. I was like, this is a 3D movie. He's going to throw that pickaxe at some point. I was just waiting on it.
Oh, yeah.
I think my favorite was the dryer kill. Like, was that like the maid he killed? I can't
It was
remember.
I
Or
think it was
nanny,
their
the
son's
nanny.
nanny, yeah.
Yeah, the nanny. Yeah.
Which, funny enough, is one of the other Easter eggs from the original, except it was not a nanny. It was a laundry room attendant that gets offed by the killer, and they find her in the dryer the exact same way. It's almost verbatim the exact same scene, like with the door opening and the like crusty body flying out at you.
Oh,
It's like it's
I
literally the
loved it.
exact same. Like this guy comes in. I think it's the sheriff that finds her. Comes in, and it's actually kind of sad because it was like his little girlfriend, and she left him chocolates on his desk later. But anyways,
Oh, that's
um,
sad. That's
he
awful.
opens the dryer door, and like her little crusty body just flings out, just like the nanny. And I was like, oh, that was a little nod to the original. I wouldn't have thought, but it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's just proof that I'm an oldie when it comes to my horror. I picked the kill that was a shout
You
to the
picked
old
the
one.
one kill. You picked the one kill that was the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. What do you think about this movie being called My Bloody Valentine when it didn't really have much to do with that? Like the first one, it sounded like it had to do a lot with the Valentine's Day dance and
It
like the
did,
heart
yeah.
the hearts being left. Like that was a
Mhm.
thing. Like this movie, I mean, we got it at the end, but like in the
Yeah,
middle,
I
like
mean, it still had like cuz Megan gives Axel I think it happens on Valentine's, right? Because Megan gives Axel her Valentine's Day present and then tells her she's pregnant or whatever. I don't even know if she really was, but
oh yeah, good
um
question.
that happens, and then of course you find the Valentine's boxes and the Be Mine Forever, and so I mean I think it was just all nods to the original. But yeah, in the original it's like very hardcore Valentine, like it's Valentine's weekend. They're having a Valentine's dance. The Valentine's
Yeah.
dance gets canceled, so they have a Valentine's party, and they all are going with their sweethearts, and it's very Valentine's Day
Well,
for sure.
like I feel like I could just pick up this movie and watch it like anytime and I'd be good. But like,
Right. You don't
say
have to watch it on Valentine's season.
say I had a lady who, liked the horror genre and she was like, let's watch Valentine's Day horror movie." Like I feel like she'd want to watch a movie that, got into the holiday spirit a little. And it sounds like the old one was more into the holiday
I
spirit.
would say, I mean,
Not
they
that I am.
definitely they definitely bring up Valentine's Day more in the original for sure.
So if
But
you're
I don't know that it still is so centered around the holiday so much other than it is just happening at a Valentine's Day party. Because it is all still really kind of surrounding the mine itself and what happened in the mine.
so if
That part of the movie is still the same.
so if you're gonna watch this with your Elvira or your Crypt Keeper man, doesn't really matter. You can watch either one and be good. I mean,
Yeah, I
sounds
mean,
like
I
it.
and you could watch them both because I think they differ enough from each other that it is like two different movies.
Yeah, yeah. So, hmm, yeah, I feel like, yeah, I feel like Halloween I want to watch in October. I watch it around Halloween, but this movie I'm like I could watch this anytime. Like this is an
Anytime, yeah.
anytime slasher. Like it's not a
Yeah.
holiday thing, so that's cool.
It just happens to occur on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, 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 totally. So what what else? Did we miss anything?
The last Easter egg I'll share
Oh
is
yes.
one of the kills where in the remake I think it's just a random person he's chasing through the mine, and the miners' clothes fall down one at a time from the ceiling. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Like they
Uh,
hang their
Sarah. That happened
uniforms
to
or whatever
Sarah
up
in the
from the
new
beginning.
one, right? That
Okay,
happened to
yeah, yeah,
Sarah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, to Sarah. So it doesn't happen to Sarah in the original. It happens to the random girl that ends up with her head as a shower spigot. But
Oh,
she's
oh.
in the mine, and all of it, it's more than just one at a time. Like all these clumps of uniforms start falling from the ceiling all at once. And I will say the original did it a little better, but the way they did it in the remake was a nice little nod to the original, I think.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, this could have been done better. Like it could have been scarier. It was very short lived in the remake and very
It was
quick.
very just this one little like boop, it happened. And then also when he's like walking and smashing out all of the tunnel lights, that also is from the original.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't really doing anything. Like it's not really like encompassing him in like a
No,
cool
I think it
shadow or
was just
anything. That was just a
I
shout
think it
out.
was just that nod to the
Not.
old one. And but I will say in that scene with Jensen Ackles in the remake, when he hits one of the lights, his face becomes the miner real quick. It's just like a little flash, and I liked
I
that. That was
do
cool.
like that. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna mention that. I'm glad you remembered because that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
But
yeah.
that's just an like I think Jensen Ackles just did such a good job with the split personality. Like he would go just his facial expressions, especially when she does say, "Hey Tom, stop," or tries to get through to him. Like you see that facial change from him being confused about what she's talking about, and then real quick back to like the evil villain.
Makes
Like
you
I
feel
think he just did a
bad.
really good job with that.
Makes you feel
Yeah, because you're
bad
like,
for
oh, I
him.
feel bad for him because he doesn't even know. Like he doesn't know what's happening.
But he's gone at the end. Like there was Harry that escaped the mine because he
Oh yeah.
survives. He
Oh yeah.
survives everyone. The big explosion because Sarah shoots poorly for like 5 minutes and misses like a lot. And
Right.
then
A
Axel
lot.
was like, Sarah, we have one bullet. You can't miss. And she's like, okay. And she shoots him and then shoots a gas tank at the same time, like the best shot ever. And
Oh,
blows
you
up.
mean that's what I was supposed to be doing this whole time? Yeah. And it's probably not this deep, but what if she was missing all those times because he was like the love of
Yeah,
her
that's
life?
true. That's
Because
true.
she obviously settled for Axel. Like it's so obvious, but
Yeah, because he
um,
says that. Tom says that. He's like, you settled, or
yeah,
she
and
settled
that
for
is
you.
true to the original too. Tom TJ/Tom in the original looks Axel dead in the eyes and says, she'd rather be with me or something like that. So that's true to the
Oof.
original. But yeah, this movie ends the exact same way as the original with the killer Axel in the old and Tom in the new. Escaping from the mine. They know in the original that Axel escapes because he tra-la-la-la's off into the blackness, like literally skipping. But yeah, I liked Tom's ending a lot better with him sneaking out in the rescue worker's uniform and no one actually realizes he's alive, which set it up for a sequel that was actually supposed to happen. But then when this movie didn't do as well as they thought it was going to at the box office, they went ahead and Lionsgate, I think, canceled the sequel. But
Which is kind of
they
sad.
definitely set it up.
It's kind of
I
sad.
know. Looking back on it now, I'm like, I kind of wish it had happened.
And
Like
kind of,
it's not a great movie, but it's good enough to I want to see what happens.
it's kind of surprising because Lionsgate was on fire. Like Saw came out like
Yeah.
a few years back, and
Lionsgate was like then what like Blumhouse is now, I think.
yeah, Blumhouse of the early 2000s, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of sad. Yeah, it was totally set up. They might have ended it differently if they knew like this was gonna be it. Like,
They might have, but I mean, I
or
think it obviously sets up a sequel, but I think it's still a good ending. Him getting away and everyone thinks he's dead. It's a much better ending than the original where he just sings songs himself out into oblivion. Who knows where?
I I think maybe
You
we
have
would
to
have.
YouTube the ending when we're done with this.
Oh,
You
I'm
have
gonna.
to. And
I'm
everybody else
gonna.
listening,
Everyone do it.
like if you don't want to watch the whole movie, just go to YouTube and watch the end.
I I feel like if they knew it was just gonna be one, there would have been like one more scene, like them, like fast forward, like reconciling their marriage or something. And she lays down, and it's like a storm, and like lightning outside, and there's just him in the miner
You just
outfit
see
out
like
the window or
a shadow
something.
of a pickaxe out the window. Yeah.
Yeah, or something like that. Maybe,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's fine. It's fine the
Well,
way it is.
it is. Yeah. Well, like I said, I think it's an enjoyable watch. It's not a great, amazing, you're gonna love it for the entirety of your life type of movie, but it's an entertaining movie if you don't have anything to watch. And if you
Yes.
want to watch it, it is on Amazon Prime right now if you have a membership. So if you're looking for something to do on Valentine's Day this week, then go watch My Bloody Valentine.
Is your final recommendation to watch the remake over the original, like overall? Would that be what you
I would say
tell
watch
people?
them both.
What? No,
I would say watch them both.
No, they can't. They only have one subscription.
There can only be one.
If I'm gonna pick one slasher,
Ooh.
one slasher, do I watch the original or the remake?
If you can absolutely only watch one and you're in it for a slasher movie, I would say watch the remake.
Yeah.
But I mean, the original is not bad. It's not got well-known people in it that have held up over time. Like, there's no Jamie Lee Curtis's in it.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of bloody scenes. You don't see a lot of the kills, but I mean, it's still like held my attention. The story made sense. Like, it's definitely an older style movie. Like, it feels very like of its time period, like more so late 70s than an 80s slasher.
Yeah.
So I would say give them both a watch, but if you absolutely were only able and allowed to watch one movie, I would say watch the remake. Because it has Jensen Ackles. So.
Well, that's yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, but it's pretty amazing. This is week 2 where we've picked a remake over the original, like overall.
That's true.
That's kind of crazy, and a lot of people like give crap about some of those ideas. Like, I enjoyed the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I love the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but people give the what's her name, who's in that movie, Justin Timberlake's wife, Jessica Biel, you have to give that one crap. But I think there are remakes out there that do a good job, live up to the original. Yeah, they're out there. But
they exist.
That may be a future episode where we talk about remakes and kind of discuss which ones did better, which ones did not. I don't know, one day, or we'll just talk about all the movies. Who knows? But yeah, but this is one of them. Remake recommendation. I agree. But only if you're a big slasher fan and you like some bloody carnage, because it delivers.
I would say just like fast forward past the nude scene though, because you don't want to see it.
Yeah,
you might want to see it for like 2 minutes, but you can skip the other like 7 minutes. So
yeah, like yeah. Put on your 3D glasses. Put them on.
Put
why
them
not?
on if you still own those
that's
from
still a thing.
2002 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Get them on eBay or Amazon or something. But yeah, I recommend for that. And it's our final thought, eh?
I guess that is it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in, and we hope all you little poppets have a wonderful Valentine's Day and that you do something truly horrific.
But with love.
With love. And then also make sure you go follow us on Instagram and TikTok, because we are on there as well, and we post some extra stuff outside of our episodes. So if you want to see what we're posting, make sure you go and follow us, and then tune in next week because it'll be Poppet Derek's pick.
Woohoo! My pick. Yeah.
My pick.
Yeah, I can't wait. Tune in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.